What are Razor components? Razor components are reusable items that generate HTML for you. So this is more important, that they will generate HTML for you. This means that the HTML can be a complex HTML which is which may be required to be used at various parts of your project. So instead of copying and pasting the whole thing, you can create a component so that a large amount of HTML can be inserted with a small amount of code with single line. One typical example is your rating bar. You can make quite fancy rating bars which will display rating on a whenever they are rendered. Then you can see the pagers at the bottom, those 1 2 3 4, those pagers, then hit counter. These can all be decorated with a good amount of CSS and they can be inserted at any place you want in your page. And one more interesting example that I find is of a shopping cart counter. One item in your shopping cart, two items in your shopping cart, or like that. These all stories, they are complicated HTML that doesn't have to be copied and pasted again and again. You can put it inside a component and use that component at various places of your project. So if you make some modification to the code of the component, then the same modification will take place in the entire project. This is the good part of it, that you don't have to search and modify everywhere because your customer says that he doesn't like this color or he doesn't like that. In that case, these components, they come as quite handy. So I would say they are a shortcut. They are a shortcut for substituting HTML content into your page at a position where you want. So they are a handy shortcut rather. You write your Razor components in files of extension .razor. The file extension is .razor and the code behind is written in a file extension called .razor.cs. Like you write your your Razor pages in .cshtml and .cshtml.cs. Similarly, these components are written inside files called .razor and if you have a code behind, then you can use the .razor.cs. So I'll explain both of them today. And the good part is that these are standalone components. These are standalone components. They do not depend on other parts of your project. So what does this mean? That if you write a component in one project, then you can reuse that component in other projects also, because you have to just copy paste that particular file and paste into your new project. So this is a good part. So any code, any database query, any processing is completely self-contained in these two files. So that is why they can be copy and pasted anywhere. So let us see more aspects of this. If you have come from the classical background of MVC, there we used to have partial views. These partial views also generated HTML. They could also be inserted at various places. They were also reusable components, but there are significant differences between these two. Let me tell you. I'll tell you very briefly. First of all, a partial view. Let us say this is your main page. This is your main page and you put a partial view at this place. This partial view is a part of the chain of the page. This means that you can access view bag. In your partial page, in your partial view, because it is a part of the main chain. Other things like HTTP context, even they are also available to you. These HTTP context, view bag, anything that is available to your main page is also available to your partial view. But when you come to Razor components, they are not a part of the chain. They are independent. They are completely self-contained. This means that the data of your page will not be available inside a razor component unless you specifically pass it as a parameter. So out of the box, the data of your page is not available inside your component. That will not be available. So that is why you cannot access view bag inside a component. If you try to access a view bag, you get error, compilation error you get there. Similarly, you cannot get your HTTP context there also. If you try to get your HTTP context, that is also not available. Why? Because a razor component is a standalone component, and if you want your HTTP context inside your razor component, then you must pass it as a parameter. So because it comes as a parameter, it can be processed within your component. It is more like